Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining Visual Sound today. My name is Andy Brown. I am an account manager here at Visual Sound, and I am here to help assist Corey and kind of manage the call. So the first thing I would like for you to do, if you could, in the chat, is input your name and email. That will give us a record of who's attended and allow us to send follow-up information, etc. And certainly during the call, I'll be monitoring chat. So if you have questions, feel free to type in the chat box. And as Corey mentioned at the end, we'll have a Q&A session where you can take yourself off of mute if you'd like to ask questions. This session is being recorded so that you can review the session later on or share with your colleagues, however you see fit. And if you have any questions about setting up hardware, your classroom or your home office or something of that nature and are looking for assistance, please reach out to your account manager. We're getting many requests from schools these days to help set up virtual classrooms, and we're certainly happy to help and talk with you and go through your needs to really customize a solution to fit your unique needs. And with that, I do want to turn it over to our resident expert, Corey Freed. She is a former educator. She's certified in SMART, Google, Microsoft, has a tremendous amount of experience. We're happy to have her and happy to learn from her experience. So with that, Corey, if you want to take over.
All right, thank you, Andy. So as Andy said, my name is Corey Freed. I am the educational consultant here at Visual Sound. And today's session is going to be on Google Slides and Smart Learning Suite Online. So the main purpose of today's session is to show you how you can take your stagnant Google Slide presentations and make them more interactive using Smart Learning Suite Online. So as you can see on the screen, I actually started with us in Google Slides because I want you to be aware that this was created almost completely in Google Slides. I'd say 90% of today's presentation is right here in Google Slides. And you'll notice that I have some slides that I basically use as a placeholder. So for example, this slide here says shout it out. And that's to remind me that when I import it to Smart Learning Suite Online, I want to put a shout it out here. And the same thing as we go down in my sample, I did that for a YouTube video to show how to input videos. So it's really easy to create these slides in Google Slides. It gives us that cloud-based full editing capabilities. But then when we convert it over to Smart Learning Suite Online, now we have the interactiveness for it. So as I said, my name is Corey Freed. I am the educational consultant. My email address is right there, along with my Twitter handle. I am not going to lie to you, I am a very geeky person, but I do have a lot of educational resources that I tweet, so feel free to follow me. Let's see if I can get up to 2,000 followers by the end of the summer. That would be awesome. Today's session is going to show you a few different things. So as I said, if you'd like to log into Smart Learning Suite Online, that way you can witness what the student perspective is. And as you can see as the teacher, right now I can come in here to the pen and I can remind you that that's really the goal, is to see what you can do for your students. And when I write on my slide, if you're logged into hellosmart.com, you're going to see this as well. So as the teacher, it really does give you that nice interactiveness, and it's different than just having a Google slide up there. If I were to go back to Google Slides, I can't use my stylus. I can't write on here. As you can see, I can click and I can get a text box, but I can't actually write on the Google slide. So that's the first really nice feature when you import it to Smart Learning Suite Online. The next thing we're going to look at is that how-to. So when we're talking about importing from Google Slides to Smart Learning Suite, well, how do we do that? We're going to look at how to do it, so that way you are going to be able to feel confident in your skills and you can make this interactive for your students very easily. And then the last thing on the agenda today is I will be providing you with resources. As Andy mentioned, if you put your email address in that text chat room, I will be sending out resources. This call is being recorded, so you will also be able to see this on our YouTube channel. And now the next slide, obviously, we talked about logging in to see that student perspective. So if you go to hellosmart.com, you're going to click join as a guest, and you can log in as yourself, but I recommend doing the join as a guest just because it's not within your own domain and it's just easier, especially if you're on your personal computer watching right now and not a school computer. Join as a guest. It's going to ask you our class code. It's 120636, and then it'll ask you your name. You'll notice in my sample right here, I have sample student 1, sample student 2, and my phone went to sleep again, but I also have sample phone. This way you could obviously see, I'm not going to check your names. I'm not taking attendance. I'm not grading you. You can put a fake name if you want. Just make it appropriate because that list of names will be showing on the YouTube video a few times during our session. So again, the class code is 120636. If you don't know your class code as a teacher, when you click on this icon right here of the silhouette people, your class code comes up here right under your name. And if you're trying to display this for your students the first time, you can click on the arrow here and it will pull it out nice and big. So now when you're looking at the screen on your if your students are looking at the screen on their Zoom call or their Google Meet or however you're presenting to your students, you have that code nice and big for them. It just makes it easier. Again, you can do what I did and put it in that first slide, but it's there on the side if you forgot to do that, or if you shared this to a fellow teacher, your class code and their class code are going to be different. So you might not want to put the class code directly in the slide. So we talked about the fact that converting our Google Slides to Smart Learning Suite Online is going to make things a lot more interactive and collaborative. So the first activity I have here right now is what's called the Shout It Out. And as I showed you on my Google Slides, I did have a preview of what Shout It Out was, where it was going to be. I had a little placeholder in my Google Slides. So if you have hellosmart.com open right now, you are going to see that it opened up a text box and it's asking you to type a response. So again, the question here was, what does a collaborative classroom look like? And I am putting responses in from 2 of my devices. That way you can see when people fill it in. So when your students are filling in that text box, it's going to pop up on the Shout It Out. And if you are sharing your screen like we are doing, it comes up on the screen. You'll notice if I click on my people, I will see them all listed there. When you do this on the Smart Notebook and not on Smart Learning Suite Online, you actually can see who is who. If you click right here on the gear, you'll see that it shows you that red circle right here is this person. It shows you that the green shape right here is the sample student. It also shows you how many people have contributed and what they've done. Now, right now I have the toggle switch off so you don't see names on the icons, but if I was to click on display name, it'll now show you that little initials. So sample phone comes up as Sam. If I now click on the sample phones tab right there, it makes it bigger. So that way, if you as the teacher see a really great response, you can click on it and magnify it. So while you're talking to your students, they can see exactly what's going on there. I can then click on another student's and it pulls theirs up large. So there are so many things you can do with the Shout It Out, and it doesn't have to be an open-ended question like what we did. It can be something that's just a wellness check for your students. Maybe you start your lesson for the kids and you say, what are you doing today for yourself? Or how are you having fun while staying at home? So you can make it whatever you need, or you can put a math problem and have the kids answer and see who posts their response fastest. There's so many different things you can do with the Shout It Out. Now, just to show you, here is a sample of what a full shout out looks like. So this is a screenshot of a Shout It Out that was done previously. So you can see that as people are responding, that board fills up. Now they can overlap each other, but if I go back to our shout out, you'll notice that it is possible to move them as well. So here I am looking at my students' responses, and it's going to take a second to load because, as you all know, sometimes the internet can be slow. But I will be able to drag them back and forth. I can move them. So even if your board fills up, you will have the opportunity to move them around and look at them differently. So the next thing I want to show you is a YouTube video. If you remember on the slide sample, I had a spot that said YouTube to remind me to put a video in here. When we are looking at this website though, you'll notice that the video is now full size and there's a play button on the bottom. If you are logged into Hello Smart yourself right now, you will also see the play button and you can play the video separate from the teacher. So the students have the ability to do that separately. And what's nice is when you hit the play button, Smart has actually set it up so that it blocks advertisements. You are not going to get one of those skip the button advertisements at the beginning. So we're not going to watch this whole video, obviously, but I wanted you to just be aware that that's there. Now, if you are logged in as yourself right now to Hello Smart, you can go. And I just noticed somebody posted a question. What would you recommend if you are using the same lesson in 2 different classes? Have 2 shouted out slides, 1 for each section, or So that is a great question, Pat, and I stopped reading it halfway through. So let me read it through again before I answer it. I apologize. What would you recommend if you are using the same lesson in 2 different classes? Have 2 shouted out slides, 1 for each section, or copy the entire presentation for the second class? So Pat, that would really depend. I honestly, though, would recommend if you are using the same slide deck for multiple classes, copy it for each class. And the reason isn't just the shouted outs. You're going to see as we go through this, there are other activities. And if you have all the classes in one class, it's going to make it a little more difficult for you as the teacher. So I think it's definitely better to have it as separate sections. You don't have to create the Google Slide separately. I will be showing you how you convert the Google Slide to Smart Learning Suite Online, and you can convert the notebook twice. So just because you made a slide deck doesn't mean you have to first copy the slide deck and then import it to Smart. You can import that same slide deck multiple times and then just add the interactive features. So as we move on, the next thing you see here is a workspace. And the workspace is an interactive activity that's great for collaboration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset this because it was set for my preview. And you'll see right now it asks me how many teams do I want to create? Well, we have 9 students enrolled currently in my FATE class. So I'm going to do 3 teams and you'll see it automatically sets the names randomly. Now, what happens if sample student 2 and Wendy, I know they don't get along, they're not going to work well together? Well, I can drag sample student into a different team and I can drag Nick over so that the teams are still even. So even though it randomizes the teams, you can set them however you want. This is also really nice. If you're not sharing your screen at this point, the students will not even see you do that. So if your screen is sharing, it is going to be shared like what I'm doing right now. But if you were to take it off of sharing, like if I move it to another screen for a moment, you're currently looking at my Google Drive folder, and I can switch these students around however I want before I start the assignment. So now when I move it back to the screen, you'll see I switched the sample student again, and now I put Pat on team 2. When I click the start the workspace, this is where it becomes really interesting because you'll notice I have 3 separate teams. When I click on one of the teams, it's going to bring up their slides. So if somebody in this presentation was to be writing on it, it's going to show you what they did. And you'll notice also the tools give you the option to have a pen or a text box. So if you are working on a computer that doesn't have a touchscreen, you can use a text box. All right, so I just wrote something on my team and you'll see that when student 1 wrote on the team, it displayed on the team 1. But if I now switch because I want to see what team 2 is doing, I switch to team 2 and you'll see that the students in my FATE class, they are not currently working, and that's fine. Again, this is a demo. I don't expect Those of you that logged in to see the student perspective, I don't actually expect you to, oh, look, somebody started writing because I put theirs on the screen. So that's the nice thing. The thing I would warn you about, though, is if you know you have some class clowns, again, pull it off your mirror screen. So before you display it to your Zoom call or your Google Meet call, because this time I had a student write the word hi, but what if you do have that class clown? You might not want to display theirs before you as the teacher preview it. So if I now go to class group 3, again, I could see whatever they wanted. So I'm going to go back to class 2 for a second because I know that that one had a sample assignment. And now let's say that I, as the teacher, want to tell them that they're doing a great job. I can come in here as the teacher, and please excuse my terrible handwriting. I can come in here and I could write back to the students, and you'll notice that what I wrote doesn't show up on the other students' work. So just because you write a comment to team 1 doesn't mean it will show for team 2. If you write a comment to team 2, it won't show to team 1. So that is some really nice features about using the workspace. It allows for that collaborativeness. Now, Pat, back to your question where you asked about 2 classes versus 2 slides. This right here is one of those reasons why I would say two slide decks is better. Because if you start the workspace for class 1, that class 2 won't be able to do it. And if you start it for class 2, it'll actually reset what class 1 already did. So while the shout it out, you could just do that. If you're going to do anything with workspaces, you do want each class to have its own Smart Learning Suite Online notebook, just for that reason of continuality. All right, so the next sample we have is what's called a handout. So while the collaborative space allowed each student to do their work separately, the handouts are going to actually be an individual assignment. So this is what the teacher sees when they log in, and this is what the student sees. So when a teacher starts a handout, the student's just going to see a slide with the word start. You'll notice if I go back to the teacher for a second, right now it shows that Andy is already starting my assignment, but he's the only one. If I come back here to my sample student and I click start, the sample student will now have the assignment. And depending on if they have a touch screen or not, again, they can pull a text box over. So I can come over here and I can just write the answer, or I can come over here with my pen. It says underline the adjective, write the noun. So the noun here would be the flowers. The adjective is colorful. So I could write on there as the student. As the teacher, I come back to my learning suite. And now this is the other really nice thing. If I am presenting this to all my students right now and I want them to see a blank assignment, I come here to where it says teacher handout on the bottom. And that's going to just pull up the blank assignment so the kids can all see what they're doing and I can talk about it as the teacher. Now, if I want to go grade a student, I can come back to that pull down menu. I can click on Andy's name and I can see that Andy hasn't done anything yet, but that's okay because he's just helping me so that I make sure I had at least one student enrolled in my class. I could pull down that menu again, straight from Andy's name, and I can click my sample student. And now I see where I was just demoing the sample student for you a second ago. So I can go through all the students using that pull down menu and I can grade them. I can look at them. If I was to, I'm going to pull up Pat's because I know she was asking questions. I could write something to Pat. I'm just going to draw a smiley face. And if she looks at it on her slide, she'll see that smiley face. Now, nobody else is going to see that, only she will. And again, that's because it's her slide. You'll notice also on the toolbar, you'll see an eraser so you can erase stuff, and you'll also see a picture. So if you click on the picture, it opens up a Bing search. I know that's weird because everyone's like, Google, Google, Google. It is a Bing, which is part of Microsoft, but it is also a safe search. So the Bing safe search makes sure that whatever you're getting is going to be safe for kids. I would like to just put a little disclaimer that no algorithm is perfect. You build a better algorithm, the people tend to find a way to get around it. But for the most part, if you use the Bing Safe Search, it's going to come up nicely. And you'll notice that while I was talking, Pat just put that beautiful picture of a flower on her slide. All right, so we're going to continue on. And this is another workspace. And again, I'm just showing you these pretty quickly. You don't have to do anything on it this time. But this time when I start the workspace, I'm going to put everyone on one team. So now everyone in the class is going to be able to write on this. And notice it says power of a blank page. The reason we have power of a blank page is because just like with a whiteboard, sometimes you need a blank page to work on. So if you put a blank page on your slide, it's going to give you that opportunity. And that opportunity is going to allow you to do whatever you need. So I could come in here and I wrote hello everyone from my sample computer. I can come in here and I can put a math problem. Whatever you need to do, and now you have that. I do want to show you the reason why I put the hello everyone from my other computer. This is another great feature that actually only came out about 2 weeks ago. If you click on something, and I apologize because I had it on the pen. First, you have to click on the finger so that you actually have the mouse. But if you click on something that somebody else put, and you then pull down the arrow, it's going to show you who added that item to your slide. So if you have a collaborative activity, and again, like I said, you might have that class clown, you could see exactly who did it. So sample student 2 wrote hello everyone. If I click on my smiley face picture, Andy added it. Something else you'll notice when you click on a picture. Really good for digital citizenship is making sure you give credit where credit's due. So when I click on that smiley face, you can see right here it says source, and it tells you where the image came from. This is proper attributes. It's not APA, it's not MLA, but it is giving credit where credit is due, and it does happen automatically when you share a picture from the toolbar. So it's, again, just a really nice thing. Smart only added this about 2 weeks ago. All the stuff that they've added within the past month, I am super excited to see what they add by the end of August, because they have been working around the clock to get all of these features put in place for teachers to have the best experience with their students. So we have another blank page that is not an activity, and then we have more handouts. What I want to do right now, though, because we are running out of time, is I want to take you back to the Google Drive because I want to show you how to do everything. So when we're in Google Drive, you'll notice right now I have a folder called Visual Sound Webinars, and you'll notice I have both Google Slides and Smart Learning Suite Online files. There's 2 different ways to go from a Google slide to a Smart Learning Suite Online file. So the first way is to right-click on the file you want to open, and where it says Open With, you'll notice that Smart Learning Suite is one of the options. If you do not see Smart Learning Suite, and this is a big issue for some school districts, if you do not see that, you have to ask your administrator to turn it on. It is a toggle switch on the administration panel of G Suite. It's one click and it'll be on for the entire school district, but your administrator has to turn it on. So if you go to make a Smart Learning Suite Online file and you do not see that option, just email your administrator and I will be giving you a resource so you can send them the direct link and say, here's what you have to click, log in and click it, please. And that's it. So again, you would right click on the Google slide and then open with, and instead of opening it with Google Slide, you would open it with Smart Learning Suite. The other option is to click New. And just like you see your Google Docs, your Google Sheets, and all your standard files, if you go to the More option, Smart Learning Suite will be listed there as well. It is the same toggle switch, so if you're missing it in one place, you're going to be missing it in both. So if you are seeing that you don't have access to it, just talk to your administrators and they will turn it on for you. For them, it would be this connecting more apps. I do have the direct link that I'll be sharing to you, so that way you can do that. So I want to show you this right here, and I just realized that I never updated it on that one. So I'm going to go back to the other to the Smart Notebook. And we're going to go to that last slide because it has a tiny URL that is going to have all the resources that we were talking about today, along with a lot of other resources that were created for you guys to help you with anything you need to do. So if you go to the bit.ly Visual Sound 033, that is going to take you to all of the resources that will help you get started with Smart Learning Suite online, along with more videos that were created directly from Smart and some tutorials on how to do things as well. This resource was put together in collaboration with Smart Learning Suite, or sorry, not with Smart Learning Suite, with Smart Tech. So some of these videos come directly from them, and it is a great resource. Another resource that I want to share with you is the resource that we put together here at Visual Sound. It is bit.ly Visual Sound 031. So just whereas right here you see that 033, if you just replace the 33 with a 31, that will take you to the resources from all the webinars that I have been hosting throughout the past few months. It has recordings, resources, and a whole lot of other stuff. So that way you are able to access everything. This video from today is going to be archived on our YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel is also linked on that 031 resource. So I see somebody else asked a question. Will the student attendees show as active or inactive depending on if they are in the teacher presentation or not? Our students use iPads, and I'm wondering about students switching between apps during the class. So that is a great question, Pat. If you notice on my classes or on my students right now, if I click on that, it shows you that there are a few students in. My phone is not listed in though because my phone went to sleep while I've been talking to you. If I turn my phone back on, now you're going to see sample phone returned. If I close out of the web browser on my phone to go to, for example, check my email, my phone is still listed in there. So if your browser is open, such as on the iPad, you will still be listed in the class. But if your phone goes to sleep or your iPad goes to sleep, you will come out of the class because you are not actively engaged. So I think what it is, and don't quote me on this part, we would have to double check with Smart, but I think as long as your internet is connected on the browser, it will show you listed. But when your phone or your iPad goes to sleep, it shuts off the data or the Wi-Fi to save battery. So in that case, I'm no longer connected because my phone is not connected actively to the browser. So that might be a question we want to double check with Smart just to get a definitive answer. But based on my practice right now and demonstrating, I could tell you that if my phone is off, the phone is not listed as soon as my phone is on, even though I was like out of the web browser checking email on the phone. And I only did that to test it. I didn't actually check email while I've been talking with you all, but it did keep me listed as sample phone on the list of students. Do I have any other questions from our audience? This has been a great session. I appreciate those of you that were asking questions, those of you that were pretending to write on my sample slides just to see what happens. I am going to turn this now to student pace so that way you could actually go back and forth between the different slides on your own and see what other people might have done or what you as the student can actively do while we are in student mode versus teacher mode. So if you're in student mode, you'll notice that all of the handouts can still be done, but the workspace cannot because the collaborative stuff has to be synchronous. So anything collaborative, such as the workspace, has to be real-time teacher paced. Any of the handouts, those are all student paced because your students can pick and choose which order to do them in. So I will stick around for a few minutes to answer any other questions that come up. I respect all of your time, and we did tell you that this is a half-hour session. So thank you all for joining us today. Visual Sound will be having a few more webinars in this Smart series coming up in the next week. We have one on Friday, and then we have two more Monday and Wednesday. We will then be repeating some sessions throughout the summer, have open office hours for anyone who has questions or needs assistance. So please feel free to reach out if you need anything. You can email me directly at cfreed@visualsound.com. You can reach out to me on Twitter. That is no problem. And I apologize that I didn't change that. That should not have been my personal website address. So we're going to just cross that out. And we're going to put visualsound.com. And Pat, I see that you have more questions. Yes, you are more than welcome to hang out.
Yep. So yeah, just thank you again, Corey, for all of the information that you shared. If anyone wants to come off of mute now, feel free to do so if you would prefer talking versus chatting. And as Corey said, we will be hanging around for a few minutes just to make sure we answer everyone's question. But again, thank you so much for joining us. Please visit us in the future during our webinar series. We have a lot of great information to share with you as we kind of work through this summer. But thank you for joining and have a great afternoon.
All right. So Pat, you can type your question or you can come off of mute. It's up to you.
Hi, Corey. I think I asked you this once before, but I just want to clarify this one thing. If a teacher is running a lesson asynchronously, and I know you have a session I think coming up on that, but let's say a younger group of students are doing this activity.
Okay.
Am I correct? Did you say that the teacher can only have one asynchronous lesson going on at a time? So in other words, if you start the lesson and you want students to be able to complete that lesson sometime during that week span, you cannot have any other lessons live in your account. Is that correct?
So it's kind of correct. So that's correct if you want to have handouts and workspace and all of those type of things. If you're doing, for example, the games, if you're just adding some games so your kids could practice on their own, you can share a student link with them because you as the teacher won't be able to see any of their work on those type of activities. But the students can go in on their own and do them. There's just no feedback. There's no way for the teacher to see who did it and who didn't do it, any of that type of stuff. If you as the teacher specifically want to see did they do it, then yes, you have to have one synchronous class at a time, even if they're working asynchronously.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.